All right, we are live. Welcome everybody. UFC Portland pre-fight show, aka UFC Fight Night 96. I'm your host, Dave Rodriguez here. I'm joined by my co-host, Jesse Ruvalcaba out of Los Angeles. How's it going, Jesse?
Man, can't complain, man. I'm in LA, so it's like chill all the time, you know?
Well, we're going to pretty much have the Southwest covered as we usually do. Eddie Law will join us at some point. I think he's at an undisclosed location in Nevada currently, so we'll join up with Eddie later in the show. But we got New Mexico, California with Jesse represented here, and excited to break down a pretty interesting card as you know as it came about. I mean, a couple fights did drop off this card, like we're talking Jesse before we went live. We got the Luis Smoka Pettis fight that kind of fell out recently. A lot of people were upset about that. Luis Smoka being, the main guy, talking the shit that he was. So sucks we're not going to be able to see that fight. Also, the Hakran Diaz, Andre Fili fight, supposed to be Brian T. City Ortega, Josh Berkman, Bobby Green. So what we got here is a pretty interesting slate of fights here, starting off in the women's bantamweight division. We have a Caitlin Vieira making her UFC debut. Jesse going up against Callie Pasholtz. It's her second UFC fight. Her first time out was a short notice fight against Lauren Murphy, taking place back in February, Jesse. So she's a number 28 ranked bantamweight. What do you think is something that plays out here? You think Callie Pasholtz earned the victory here in her second UFC outing, or is Caitlin Vieira going to go in there and show us something in her debut and earn a victory?
Man, well, first off, I mean, this card, as you were saying, a lot of things dropped off, but man, were they serving donuts at the weigh-ins today or something? Because what do we have? 3 people miss weight?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Man,
No,
that's
worth
I
mentioning.
think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
almost a
Definitely. We had.
record, right?
Oh yeah. We had. That was the trend that it was earlier today. So yeah, it's kind of it played out that way, and there's going to be a couple guys earning some extra cash on this card as well. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the good thing. I mean, it sucks that we have I think one of the fights was moved up to a catch weight, or 2 of them, right? The main event and the co-main event. They're now
true.
catch weight bouts. So it's like
Yeah.
that is a little bit just because things were, they got to re-sign up contracts and kind of agree to fight at a different weight, because now the person that was cutting weight, made weight, is at a disadvantage, obviously. But coming back to the first fight on this card, I mean, it's a really interesting fight because, in my opinion, Fastholds, I mean, such a rookie in this sport. I mean, 3-1 is her record. I mean, what other sport do you get to be in a major league when you're only four matches, or 4 attempts at this sport in? It's kind of
Oh yeah.
difficult to take someone seriously when they're 3-1. Her last loss, as you mentioned, was her first debut fight against Lauren Murphy, TKO'd. I think it was in the first or second round. So I mean, it doesn't hold well. It doesn't hold a lot of water for me because, like you said, it was a last minute replacement fight. But on the other side, I mean, Caitlin Vieira, I mean, 6-0. I mean, this chick knows how to fight. She knows how to do pretty much everything. I think she has 2 KOs on her record, or TKOs, and the 3 submissions. So I mean, as you know, when somebody at least is able to finish fights with submissions, that means they're pretty good. Even if she's fighting somebody that's not well known, I mean, to get into to a ring or anything in a fight, you got to know good defense. You don't get caught with something crappy. So I mean, pulling off submissions in a fight holds good for me. The only thing against Caitlin, in my opinion, is that this is her first fight in the UFC. But again, I mean, I think it's almost like a reset for both chicks here. I think it's kind of like an introduction to both. So I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I think we're actually going to see a pretty exciting fight. Eddie and I always like to talk about how, if you look at this card, a lot of these Fight Pass prelim fights are people coming off losses, either trying to redeem themselves or getting the boot out the door. So I think we're going to see some pretty exciting fights on this Fight Pass. I think Caitlin Vieira is going to take it. I think we're going to see a pretty good exchange on the feet, and I think it's going to end in a TKO KO situation.
Yeah, definitely some good stuff there, Jesse. I have to agree to that. I did pick Caitlin in this win, or for the win here. Worth noting, Callie Pasholtz, all her wins are by submission. So this fight is going to end, I'm thinking, more than likely by submission. I'd probably take Vieira in that one, but like you said, good point. You really don't see a whole lot of fighters, being on a big stage, which is 3 professional fights. So this fight is pretty much just, the learning curve, and they're going to kick things off. So really, it's always a difficult thing to gauge where these women's 135 fights go. Very strange. More than likely a decision, Jesse, I'm thinking, but I picked Vieira, and I think it'll be a submission victory. It'll be a really exciting fight, though. I think that's probably going to be the trend here to kick things off as we move to the second bout, and which we got, heavyweights, Cody East versus Curtis Razor Blades. Ranking wise, you got Cody East ranked number 59, Curtis Blades number 69. So Cody East coming off the loss to Walt Harris a couple months back. Curtis Blades coming off a TKO loss to or was it doctor stoppage loss to Francis Ngannou.
Doctor stoppage.
So Curtis Blades, the younger opponent here, 25 years old. I think, let's see, Curtis Blades got all finishes, if I'm not mistaken, in his career. All his wins are by finish. So Team Elevation affiliation up in Denver, Colorado is where he's been training. He's never been finished as well. Cody East, I think all of his wins are by KO, or 8 of 12 are by KO. And I think he has been finished by KO. Blast, like I mentioned, to Walt Harris, who also is fighting on this card. But let's say Cody East, Jesse, I mean, the cardio possibly a question. I mean, I think Curtis Blades, I would give the edge in cardio. I think he'd be able to, if he's be able to withstand the first round here. I mean, we are talking heavyweights where one shot could put these guys out, no doubt about it. So on either side, but I think Cody East, very durable guy. I think he'll probably make things interesting. I think Curtis Blades has got his hands full here. What do you think plays out in this fight, Jesse?
Man, this is an interesting fight. You and I were talking about this fight because I kind of have I had an early knowledge about Curtis because of another guy that we hope to see soon move up the rankings. His name is Chepe Mariscal, Mr. Machine Gun. He also trained with Blades. I think they fought out I think it was called the UFC Lombard Gym. And both of them actually moved up to Fight Elevation to train there. And I think actually Jose, he's over there now currently like full time. So he's taking advantage of being up there. And I believe I saw Blades also make that move as well for this fight camp. So like we were talking about, I mean, when you go to a better camp like that, it changes a lot of things. I mean, it kind of shows you where you're at and where your weaknesses are. But then again, Cody East coming out of that Jackson Wink, that's a gym that just, has that prestige. And it shows. I mean, you look at both of these guys' records. I mean, they're tough dudes. They know how to fight. And it's just about sharpening. It's just sharpening those tools. And honestly, it's a tough fight for me to pick due to the fact that Blades, he had the unfortunate honor of welcoming Francis Ngannou, like I mentioned earlier, our God and Savior of the heavyweight division, right? As we see him so far, I mean, that guy
soon to be.
Yeah, he's a pretty beast, man. He's a frightening dude. So, and he didn't get stopped, he didn't get TKO'd, he didn't get KO'd. He stood in there, was really, really, having actually a pretty good fight against Ngannou, doctor stoppage. So I mean, you got to take that with a grain of salt as well, whether good or bad. So I think this is going to be one of those instances where when finally someone lands clean on the chin, that person is going to win. That's how I see this fight going. Cody East, like you mentioned, I mean, he just likes to finish fights, whether it's him winning or him going down on his shield and, getting carried out or whatever. So, I mean, this is definitely going to be yet another exciting fight. Definitely one to look at because these are two guys that could definitely be prospects here in the heavyweight division. And we definitely need that. We definitely need that in the UFC currently. The kind of roster of the heavyweight division is thin. So we're kind of all looking to see which one of these guys is going to be that guy to make that next step. In my opinion, I think just because of being able to hang in there with Ngannou, take those heavy shots, being able, like you said, stop some of those takedowns, I think that puts Blades, in my opinion, just slightly higher. But don't underestimate Cody East with the experience that he has. I mean, 14 fights, lots of finishes. He comes to win fights. So, it's definitely going to be a good fight, but I'm giving the slight edge to Blades.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, like you said, Jackson Wink MMA, I'm super familiar with Cody East. I seen him come onto the scene, fighting on cards with Holly Holm and Legacy on their way up, to where Holly's become now. I mean, yeah, Cody is coming out of the Jackson Wing camp, great training there. I think he's more than prepared for this one. The trend of the night, like we mentioned before we went live, a lot of guys coming off KO finishes on short turnarounds. So this one, they've been off for a little bit of time, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what direction each guy goes. Because yeah, I want to make a correction. I think Cody East, I said number 59 ranked in the world. He's actually 49. Curtis Blades 69. So both these guys looking to move up in the heavyweight rankings. And Cody East, man, 28 years old. Curtis Blades 25. So one of these guys is going to develop as a prospect, I believe, in which both guys had some setbacks. I think it's going to be exciting heavyweight bout. Second fight of the night. I got Curtis Blades just based on the way he held himself against Francis Ngannou. Cody East's fight was really short, but we all know the way Cody East likes to finish fights, and that's what he's going to go in there to do. And I think he's going to win. It's going to be in the first round, but I think Curtis Blades either by decision or possibly a knockout in the second round. And if you want to know the odds on that one, they got Cody East as a slight underdog plus 185. Curtis Razor Blades minus 225, the favorite right now. And according to Tapology, Curtis Blades is like an 81-19 fight, according to the fans or people that are part of the Tapology world. So, but
I mean,
yeah.
You gotta imagine that Francis Ngannou fight, it was the one that is kind of giving him that push, because I mean, like we said, man, Ngannou, I think he's the real deal. I mean, I think most people believe he's the real deal as well. So we just got to see him more in there and see what happens.
Yeah,
eventually, if he does.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jesse.
No. I was saying if he does become like a heavyweight champion, imagine all these guys that lost to him. It's not going to be a terrible loss. It's going to be like, damn, like they lost to the guy that went up there and took the belt. So, it's always 2020 is hindsight.
Yeah, and it's kind of, he came pretty much, came up rising up the rankings, with fighting guys pretty much who are unknown too, but just knocking them out and doing what he's supposed to do. So it's very interesting that they don't have actually Francis Ngannou a fight book right now. So the time will come soon enough. And yeah, no joke, Francis Ngannou is definitely a phenom, approaching phenom status at heavyweight. So I'm looking forward to seeing who he's going to fight next, because I think he deserves a big name, and possibly it could be one of these guys on this card. Who knows? So moving forward, we have a matchup here in a light heavyweight division. We have Jonathan Wilson. Hang on just a second. This did freeze up. Against Ian Cutelaba. And this fight here, 7-1, Jonathan Wilson, Johnny Bravo. He's a slight underdog in this fight at plus 155, fighting out of California. Against Jan Cutelaba. Last time out, we've seen him fight a tough bout against Misha Serkinov, and Misha Serkinov in that 205 division is pretty much, he's coming as well. He's one of those guys in that 205 division where, yeah, he's unmistakably a guy you don't want to run into right now. There's a few of them in that 205 division. Right now, the 22-year-old Cutelaba, as we all know at the weigh-ins earlier, if everybody caught it, he came out fully covered in green. His nickname is the Hulk. So, yeah, he's a young prospect. He's from Moldova. So I remember last time out when he did fight, I don't know who it was that tweeted it out. They're saying the only other person I know from Moldova is Vigo from Ghostbusters, the painting. So, but yeah, it's but then again, this guy's a tough bastard. The Misha Serkinov fight, it got real interesting in that bout. And this one here, against Johnny Bravo, I think it's pretty close. I think Jonathan Wilson's going to bring it. I think Cutelaba has just got, he's got that experience as well as Johnny Bravo, but they're ranking wise, Cutelaba is a little ways out. He's ranked like closer to 100. I think he's like the upper 90s world right now, as Johnny Bravo's in the 50 range. So, but both 4-1, I believe, in their last 5. So yeah, all the makings for a great 205 matchup here. I think a lot of people who are familiar with Cutelaba and Wilson, this is going to be an enjoyable matchup. Very close fight. Jesse, what do you think plays out in this fight? Are you going with Johnny Bravo, or do you think Cutelaba with the Hulk paint and all the hype and him being a young prospect? A win over Johnny Bravo Wilson, what does that do for him?
Man, I think this is one of those. I was telling you about this fight, that you look at Jonathan Wilson's record. On paper, he looks like he's the guy to come in and kind of start running through the division. But I have my doubts, man. He hasn't really fought anybody of note. And when he kind of, I mean, kind of did because Luis Enrique da Silva, I mean, he's kind of one of those guys that's kind of, raised up his stock little by little, but not enough to be a guy that you lose to. So, I mean, Jonathan Wilson 1-1 in the UFC. Before that, he was on a 14-fight run. That includes his amateurs, where he kind of just blazed through a bunch of guys that really, their last fights was, 2013, 2012, guys that just fought a couple times and then that's it. So, I mean, this is going to be a test. I think this is going to be a test of who moves forward and who's kind of either going to become stagnant or just kind of mosey on out of the UFC. On the other side, Kudalaba, I mean, like you said, I mean, that fight against Misha Serkinov was one that impressed me, even though it was a loss.
Yeah, and it was his only loss. Serkinov, I think his only other previous
up until
loss
then.
It was a disqualification. So
honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, nine KOs on his record, 2 submissions. I mean, this guy, I'm impressed with Kudalaba. But like you said, I mean, he's one of those guys that he's just got to prove his worth. He's got to come in and win the fights that are here in front of him. That even though that loss to Serkinov is kind of a loss that most guys would take, just because Serkinov has that style of fighting. He catches you, he beats you up. He's just kind of like an all around like just athlete, and he comes with a lot of praise. So if you lose to that guy, it's kind of not that big of a setback. Now here, Kudalaba, if he loses to Wilson, I mean, that's going to be a huge setback. So I think Kudalaba has a lot more to lose, and I think he's the one that's going to come out on top in this fight. Seeing as how they put them as basically the main event of this of the Fight Pass, right? This is the main event of the Fight Pass.
Yeah, the Nate Marquardt.
Is it the Nate Marquardt fight? Okay. Yeah. It's still, you see where they placed them on the card. I mean, they have a lot of high hope for both of these guys. I mean, still. So I think it's Kudalaba's fight to lose, and it's Kudalaba's fight to kind of, become a guy that's, 0-2 in the UFC. So, I mean, he's got a lot to prove. So hopefully he comes out with this win.
Yeah, I agree with that, Jesse. I took Kudalaba in the fight. I think he's got so many knockout finishes, and he finishes fights. I mean, he's got a lot to lose, like you said. I agree to that because I think he's pretty much a rising guy, 22-year-old guy. The Serkinov loss was real interesting because I could recall that fight, and I think he did as well as he possibly could. I mean, Serkinov's probably going to find himself in a huge. Is interesting. So. With the odds in this fight, like I mentioned, Johnny Bravo Wilson, the slight underdog, plus 155. Kudalaba, slight favorite, minus 175. So yeah, this fight is I see somebody getting put out. I think it's going to be Johnny Wilson, but it'll be an interesting fight though. They'll both trade shots, and I think Kudalaba gets the win. And now, we do move to the main event of the early prelims. Interesting fight we got here. We got Nate the Great Marquardt against the Barn Cat Tamden McCrory, a guy that's coming off a stoppage not that long ago. Likewise is Nate Marquardt. Interesting bout here. We got number 27 versus 28 in this weight class in the world. So Tamden McCrory number 28, Marquardt 27. So 11th UFC bout for Tamden McCrory. Nate Marquardt, I believe it's like his 23rd or 24th UFC fight. We all know Nate the Great's been around for plenty of years. He's fought them all. He hasn't been looking too good lately. His last fight was against Thiago Santos. Took place in May. Tamden McCrory last fought in June, I believe, June 18th. So he was stopped by Jotko, a guy who pretty much that was a fight for Bardcat to win, and he ended up getting starched pretty bad. So Tamden McCrory going in to fight Nate the Great. What do you think playing out in this one, Jesse? Who do you like in this bout, man?
Man, this is a tough fight because if you look on paper, that Marquardt has the experience, has the power to put out McCrory, especially since we've kind of seen like McCrory came back into the UFC and kind of had like a little bit of a hot streak. He had kind of like a thing going, and then he just seemed to kind of stifle out, man. It's just not looking good for McCrory, in my opinion. I like the guy. And I think I'd rather see him win than Marquardt, because if Marquardt wins this fight, man, I don't know, man. I agree with a lot of people that just don't want to see Nate Marquardt fight anymore. He's just not looking good recently. Like you said, 34-16 is his all-time record. 6 out of his last 8 fights are losses, and 4 of those were KOs, like where he got put to sleep. So I mean, that much. I go back to what we were talking about on Wednesday on the Advocate show when we talk about Bigfoot Silva, a guy that you just don't want to see take that much punishment anymore, man. Marquardt's been in there with the best. He's beaten, some of the best.
I would agree. He falls into that category. Definitely want to, that many knockouts and that many fights. I mean, that's a telltale sign. You know what I mean? And it's not a good thing. So.
Yeah, man. And to me, he's a great guy. You hear the stories about him, and he's a great guy. He's got a gym down in Thailand, I believe. And he's just one of those guys that you kind of root for, but you just don't want to see him get hurt. So my pick with my heart is Nate Marquardt by TKO, probably. I think McCoy's chin has kind of been suspect recently. Nate Marquardt's chin is not that good either, but I think Nate Marquardt is a bit more of a veteran. He's more savvy, and he's going to avoid getting hit with that big shot. Honestly, though, I'd rather see McCoy win, put Marquardt, out to pasture, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Marquardt's going to be able to win this fight.
Yeah, man. I think, I got Nate the Great in this fight. I mean, I pick him a lot of times, and he usually lets me down, Jesse. But this time around, both guys coming off the KO losses, McCrory being the more recent loss. Nate the Great's going to be favored in this fight. Of course, he's plus 175, or actually he's a slight underdog. Sorry. Actually, Barn Cat is favored. A lot of people are actually really, favoring this cat, like sort of a 67-33 type of bout in favor of Tamden McCrory. But yeah, a big guy, 6'5" guy. I think he can get pretty reckless at sometimes. I think he's going to have to really figure out Nate Marquardt. He's just a veteran guy. I mean, he's seen it all. So I think if he plays his cards right, Marquardt, has got the better skill set. I think he's the more intelligent fighter. I think, Tamden McCrory can probably be hittable early in the fight. And what they used, I think, the Tyron Woodley knockout for Nate Marquardt for promotion for this bout as well, right? So. Yeah,
that's one of the greatest knockouts ever, man. That combo that he hit Woodley with is just ridiculous.
It's sort of an
like
urban
video
legend.
Game status.
Yeah, in a way, it's sort of an urban legend knockout because not many people do remember that Nate Marquardt did starch old Tyron Woodley, the current champion. So, but I mean, it's gonna be a fight where I think one guy gets finished, and man, they're just both coming off KOs, man. And you mentioned the Marquardt thing, like kind of with Bigfoot Silva. I'm with you 100% on that, Jesse. There's numerous guys out there, but there's some guys that just stand out like a sore thumb. Marquardt's one of them, Bigfoot. There's a couple others, but that's something worth noting and always worth mentioning because we're not in a position to say, you guys need to stop fighting this and that. It's just, after that many knockouts, there's so many fighters dating back to the early days of the UFC where they were just knocked senseless and pride and back and forth. So there's a bunch of them. So in the new era, Marquardt's sort of a guy at the end of the old era to the modern era now. He's been around forever. So,
but honestly, I think, with us, with the show with the advocates, obviously, that's what we're here for. We're here to kind of advocate for the fighter, and I think as hardcore fans, we feel for these guys. We understand that, maybe some of them don't have another way of, providing for their family or whatnot. But I mean, you kind of don't want them to be Muhammad Ali or, something like that, where it's like so bad that they're just drooling and they can't take care of their families. They can't pick up their kids. We don't want to see that, especially in our sport which is so young, and we don't know what the effects of, the long haul is going to be later on. And we'd rather not, in my opinion, I think I'd rather see someone retire too soon than too late.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I keep a close eye on, as long as I've been watching fights, close to 16 years now, I keep a close eye on certain guys, and that list has run pretty thin lately. And, there's a few guys in the UFC. I mean, Gray Maynard's another guy worth noting. I mean, a lot of these guys are the end of the old era UFC, still competing now with the young guns. So, but always definitely want to make that, a point to bring up in a specific fight that applies to. So. But moving forward, we both got named Marquardt in that one. I'd love to see, just him take care of business. But the Barn Cat, I mean, he could go in there and just starch him up. I think Marquardt's got, first round finish written all over it. I think for Nate Marquardt, though, in my opinion. So moving forward, Yeah, we do have a pretty interesting bout here lined up. I mean, yeah, this bout here will be competed in the 170 division. Kita Nakamura against Eliezer Zaleski. Both of these guys are 4-1 in their last 5 fights, and I think Zaleski's coming off. He has a KO over Amari Akhmedov. So Amari Akhmedov, a tough bastard.
Mhm.
So that's a really. I mean, when I remember that fight took place. I picked Akhmedov in that bout. And yeah, previously, Zaleski, he was an unknown guy. I really didn't know too much about him. Dangerous guy, sort of has like a weak takedown defense. Unfortunately, he's facing a guy where he just doesn't want to be taken down by this guy because he's definitely going to submit you. 17 first-round finishes, I'm sorry. And I think 42 fights. He's never been KO'd. Super durable. He snatches your neck on the ground. You're done. Very experienced veteran Nakamura here. He's ranked number 52 in the world at 170. As Zaleski is ranked number 70. So all signs are favoring, Nakamura in this fight. Jesse, what do you think? What do you think's playing out here? You think Capoeira got a chance to, upset Nakamura? I think Nakamura, gets the job done here. What do you think, man?
Man, I think this is one of those fights where, again, on paper, you think Zaleski's got he's just got the fire in him, what is it? 15-5, his record with 12 KOs on there, man.
Yeah.
This dude comes to bang, basically. I mean, that's what he comes to do. He comes to finish the fight. But since being in the UFC 1-1, like you said, his last win was a Makhmedov or whatever. Anybody with a Maf or one of those last names, those guys are tough bastards.
They bring it, man, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I mean, on paper, a lot of people would probably go with the Brazilian guy, but honestly, I think Nakamura has the experience. Like you said, he ain't gonna get knocked out. He's seen it all. He's been in there with some heavy punchers. 32-7, man, that's a record right there. Most of those are submissions.
The last time he's went to a decision is like 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So that's why in this fight, I mean, if it's going to be, if Zaleski's going to win it, he'll try to go. It's going to be for the KO, but Nakamura is just not going to be there to get KO'd. I mean, just by his track record of finishing fights, I mean, it's just unbelievable that he hasn't gone to a decision in 5 years, and the guy's fighting some tough bastards too as well in the process. So.
Yeah, and I mean, in the UFC, he's already proven himself 2-1. Out of his 3 fights. So, I mean, I think what we're going to see here is Nakamura's experience is just going to shine through. He's seen it all. And I think just the inexperience that Zaleski has is gonna be his downfall here. What I could see is maybe Zaleski clipping him and putting him down. And I think his big mistake is probably going to be the Alistair Overeem playbook where he's going to follow him down to the ground and try to finish off the fight in a dumb way. And I think Nakamura's experience is going to take over, and he's going to take yet another submission. Look for this fight to definitely end by submission. I mean, Nakamura, that's what he's going to be looking for, straight up. So, like I said, I just think his experience is just going to be too much for Zaleski's power to take over. So, I think Nakamura by a submission.
Yeah, and it's good for Nakamura. It'd be his 3rd fight this year. So yeah, I mentioned that he hadn't won a decision in 5 years. He actually lost a decision though, but it was to Tom Breeze, and that took place earlier this year. So yeah, he had lost that decision. But yeah, normally when he does finish a fight, it's either by submission or it's by KO. But I'm with you, Jesse. I think the fight gets finished via submission. Nakamura. Yeah, I don't see any surprises happening here. I think Zaleski is a pretty tough bastard. Like you said, he fight any Akhmedov or Nurmagomedov, and yeah, I'm familiar with Omari Akhmedov. Anybody who knows that guy is a tough motherfucker. So that's a very notable win for Zaleski, but up against Nakamura, it's a whole different challenge. And I think, he's definitely got his hands full. I think Nakamura submits him. I mean, at any round, first round, he's got plenty of finishes in the first, but I think it happens somewhere under 3 rounds, absolutely. So. And with that one, we have, I think the odds on it are pretty even, though, Jesse, worth noting. So I think it's like a -105 near even on the side of Capoeira, -115 Nakamura. So that's the way the odds are seeing it.
And think about it. How many people really know either of these two guys? I mean, you kind of really dig deep, got to go and, really scour the internet to see any of these guys' fights unless you have Fight Pass. And, you're only going to see 2 fights on one side, 3 fights on another. It's not enough to really know what either of these two guys are going to do in this fight. Not hard to see what Nakamura is going to do, but I mean, on Zaleski's side, he's kind of one of those wild card things. So, I mean, yeah, it's definitely one of those fights where if you don't know what you're doing, stay away from betting this fight.
Yeah, I would agree to that. And now, speaking of interesting fights and betting, and I think this fight would be, well, not a clear path to victory here for Shamil Abdurrahimov versus the big ticket Walt Harris. Pretty even matchup here, I think. I don't know, Walt Harris, plenty of KOs on his resume. I think he's 2-3 in his last 5. I think his only UFC win was the Cody East win. He's fought in the UFC a couple times, but that being his only UFC win. All wins coming by way of KO, by the way. 5th UFC bout overall. Shamil Abdurrahimov, older opponent, 35 years old. He's ranked number 37 in the world. Walt Harris, number 39. Man, I mean, Abrek here, I mean, I think he's got, definitely a better skill set. He's more experienced, just a slightly better fighter, Jesse. Walt Harris is going to go in there and, look for that KO. I think Shamil Abdurahimov's got the ground attack. I think he can probably, be dangerous in any way the fight goes. I think his last win was he decisioned Anthony Hamilton. So Anthony Hamilton recently got a nice, KO victory over the summer. But Abdurahimov 4-1 in his last 5. What do you think, Jesse?
The thing that if you look at this fight, you would think that Walt Harris has the power advantage, seeing as how he's a Golden Gloves champion and all this stuff. But I think the problem is that he relies too heavily on his striking ability, and he has very, very terrible punching defense. I mean, you look at how he goes out. He goes out to try and knock you out or get knocked out, and that's usually what ends up happening. I think. What was it? Nikita Krylov kicked his head off almost, and there's a bunch of just weird KOs that he's taking. KOs that a trained, seasoned veteran of striking is not going to fall victim to. Mm-hmm. On the other side, Shamil, being a 5-time Russian national champion of Sandshow, he's got the striking. He's got the ground game. I think this is going to be one of those fights where I think Shamil's going to shine. 1-1 in the UFC. I mean, who was his only loss? Timothy Johnson.
Yeah.
Knocked out.
TKO.
Yeah. So I mean, you look at both of these guys' records. I mean, that was his first TKO loss for Shamil. So I mean, his chin is less touched up. He's a lot fresher in that department. And I think that's what's going to help him withstand what Walt Harris is going to be able to put out, and I think he's going to be able to put out Walt Harris. I think this is going to be a nasty KO more than likely on Walt Harris's side. So I'm going with Shamil in this fight.
Yeah, definitely the smart pick would be Shamil, I believe. And he's another one of those guys with the Moff, and then there's a couple of them at the highest level. There is some of these guys that actually. Like the last guy that showed up to fight Francis Ngannou looked like he just straight came out of like a Russian prison. You know what I mean? So there is some guys that are unknown Dagestani guys, but there is that top crop of them, and a lot of them are extremely tough in their divisions. And I'm always up for watching those guys fight whenever it is. But this one here, definitely Shamil Abrek is the favorite in this fight. It's not by much. It's near even on the side of Walt Harris, but. I think they have it at a -125 slight favorite advantage for the 16-3 Shamil Abdurahimov. So we're both agreeing on that, and I think I think he gets the job done. I'd be really really shocked if Walt Harris were to stun him right there in the first round and put him out. But that's just the way he wins fights. So it's a heavyweight bout. We all know what we're in for in that type of fight. So. Moving forward here, we do have a replacement opponent. The original bout here was Hakron Diaz. It was actually a really fucking interesting fight that was playing out to be Hakron Diaz versus Brian T-City Ortega. As we all know, Brian Ortega fortunately has a rotator cuff or a labrum surgery. It's going to set him aside, or he's going to be out for about a year. So not a good thing for Brian T-City as he's a rising stud in that division. So replacement opponent here, Andre Fili. Pretty a veteran of the UFC. He's got a couple bouts, in there. He's coming off the Yair Rodriguez flying kick that Yair Rodriguez tends to do to people. So taking some time off to recover, Jesse. Andre Fili is 2-3 in his last 5. Likewise is Hakron Diaz. Hakron Diaz also, the Cub Swanson fight. He's got an all-around skill set. He's very dangerous on the ground. He's not really like an attacking style fighter, I guess you could say. He will counter you. He's a tough guy anywhere the fight's capable of going. I think Andre Fili here will present some problems for him, but on the defensive side, I'll have to go with Hakron Diaz. I think he's just a better defensive fighter. Fili kind of waits too much. I think he'll be hit. I think Hakron Diaz will be able to take the fight to the ground at some point. I think he leaves plenty of openings, Andre Fili. I think Hakron Diaz will counter those openings, whether it's up against the fence, striking, taking him to the ground. I just think he's an all-around. He's got the better skill set. I think this fight here is all Hakron Diaz. Rankings do show Diaz number 17, Andre Fili number 35. What do you think happens here? Andre Fili possibly in a devastating loss. Jesse, what do you think plays out in this matchup?
Damn, I think I have the complete opposite, literally the complete opposite idea of what this fight is going to be like. Because here's the thing. I agree with you 100% in what you're saying. But the problem is that if you look at what Hakron Diaz has done ever since he's jumped into the UFC, is he's just, in my opinion, he's just not at the UFC level. He's barely squeaking by in these wins, the 3 wins that he has.
Somewhat of a gatekeeper.
Yeah, kind of, right? So it's kind of like if you beat Hakron Diaz, you're going to probably beat him in a decision. His last 6 fights, all in the UFC, have been decision. 3 losses, 3 wins. Mm-hmm. So, but here's the thing. He's losing to Cub Swanson, Ricardo Lamas, Nick Lentz. What do those guys have? Yeah, kind of. But the other thing that they have in common is most of these guys are predominantly strikers. Strikers that use wrestling to avoid going to the ground, but mostly they're strikers. I think the only oddball right there is Nick Lentz. He's kind of a weird oddball guy. But the other 2 guys, that's their bread and butter right there, And I think Andre Fili's that guy. I think this fight is perfect for both of these guys because we're going to see if, like you said, if Hakron Diaz is going to be that gatekeeper where they put somebody in there and go, hey, is he ready for the next level? Or is he still like, a minor leaguer type, middling 15 to 25 type guy? And I think Andre Fili, this is a good step for him to take. If he can go in there and show off. In that fight against Yair Rodriguez, he was doing great until he got, put to sleep by an exciting kick or what was it, a knee or a kick or something, man. It was like...
It was the same.
It was just one of those exciting finishes.
It's what do you call it? Similar to what like Paige Van Zandt's kick that landed, but it was he set him up perfectly for it. Was in the second round. It was coming out of the corner, so I think Yair was really, I don't know. Fili did look good. I'll give you that. And late in the first round, but then again, Yair, once that second round that bell rang, he came out like a storm. And yeah, Andre Fili was pretty much he's coming off that KO, so that's why I'm kind of thinking. Of him suffering that devastating of a loss,
right.
It has been that much time. I think, it's going to be a tough matchup for him. I think Diaz is going to possibly a decision here. That's why I said I think Fili, just his style, though. I don't know. He's there to be hit. I think Diaz will probably be aggressive in this fight. It's short notice. The weight he missed weight, so actually Fili is going to pocket some extra cash here for it being short notice bout. I think there's sort of like there used to be somewhat of a rift or a beef between like the Novo Uniao guys and Team Alpha Male. So I'm guarantee you Andre Fili happily accepted this fight, and that being the case. So, but I'll let you finish your point because I'm totally siding with Hakron, but Andre though, just coming off that devastating KO, seems like he'll be a different guy in the absolute, in my opinion. I think.
I agree with you. Once you get KO'd really devastating like that, sometimes you never come back. The thing is, I think Fili's the type of guy that he's still young in the sport. I think if you look at his record, I don't think he has too many devastating knockouts like that, right? I think he's been pretty well in avoiding. I think his losses are pretty much. Yeah, like his losses are by submission, Holloway and Godofredo Pepe. So he's not the type of guy that's gonna be there to get knocked out like he did in that fight. But again, we all know that Yair Rodriguez is kind of the real deal in that division as well. He's the guy that he has that exciting style, and it's kind of working with everybody up to this point. So again, he's another guy kind of like Ngannou. If he hits that title, all these losses are going to be, 2020 is high, we're going to be like, wow,
Yeah,
these
and
guys
where they're
lost to
at
the guy
too.
that eventually became the champ.
Another thing worth
Yeah,
noting
exactly.
is Diaz. They have him ranked at 17. I mean, he did what he Darren Elkins. You know what I mean? So where Darren Elkins sits in the division, he's right there in the top 10. Diaz just a little bit on the outside. So, I mean, for him to do that to a tough fucking zombie like, Darren Elkins, I doubt Feely would be the guy to outlast him in this fight, especially coming off the KO loss. So that's why instantly when I seen this matchup, I mean, it is short notice, though. We know these short notice fights, tons of crazy shit goes down. I mean, I think Feely's got nothing to lose. But, I mean, even in a tough loss, I don't think he's cut or in a tough position after that. But I just think based on
Oh
kind of
no,
like I
definitely
said,
not.
like the Elkins fight, though, like I said, I don't think Feely's that type of guy. I think if you match up Andre Feely against Elkins, he wouldn't be able to withstand that. You know what I mean? That zombie. He's just going to put you down, and he's in that position for a reason in the top 10. So the
Yeah,
145
definitely.
division, when you get to the top like 14 or 13 in the 145 division, there's killers. And that's why I'm very, very just super interested to see what they decide to do with Jose Aldo, with Max Holloway. We know T City's out. Yair Rodriguez doesn't have a fight as we speak right now. So that 145 division gets more interesting as the days go by. So, but yeah, I definitely favor Hakran Diaz definitely in this fight, and it's a pretty close bout here. They have Diaz as a -175 slight favorite. Andre Feely, which he's probably comfortable being the underdog. I think he has like a shirt or clothing company. It's like Outcast and Underdog. So I'm sure he'll happily accept the underdog role here, which he is. So, but he'll be pocketing some extra cash. So, but yeah, that's the missing weight trend actually happened today. So that's kind of weird that there was 3 guys. So everything just kind of happens in threes, worth noting. So as well. So
Yeah, I mean, but like I said though, I mean, Andre Fili, I think if you take that fight that he had against Max Holloway, I mean, he did pretty good up until that third round where he got caught. And Max Holloway's a beast, and he was able to still outlast, most of Holloway's attacks. So I think, like I said, I think this is gonna be a good gauge of where both of these guys are at. I just think that Fili is gonna be one of those guys that is gonna be able to be able to touch him up a little bit more than Hakran Diaz is able to touch him up. And I think it's going to be one of those exciting back and forth decisions, probably a split decision.
Nice. Yeah, it should be pretty exciting bout. I mean, sucked that Brian Ortega is not going to be a part of it, so I'm super pissed off about that. But oh well, it should be a great bout positioned on the card in which we move forward to Luis Enrique Silva versus Joachim Christensen. It'd be a 205 bout here, Jesse. Undefeated fighter, and Frankenstein Luis Enrique de Silva. We do have, both guys are riding a 5-5 win streak leading into this, or they're 5-0 in their last 5. Christensen fighting out of Denmark, Copenhagen guy. We do have Frankenstein fighting out of Brazil. A lot of people are favoring him in this fight. I mean, it's pretty much like an 86-14 fight. What a lot of people are looking at. The odds on it are pretty close. So it's sort of a -125. Slight favorite on the edge of Luis Enrique de Silva, but he's never been finished. He's got tons of, I think he's got every single win of his is a TKO, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. He's a number 36 ranked guy in the 205 division, so kind of gauge where he's at with an 11-0 record, 27-year-old cat. Yeah, Jesse, man, are you familiar with Christensen here? Do you think Luis Enrique de Silva ends up, keeping, that streak going? I mean, he's pretty much going in there to KO. And he doesn't get finished, man. So does Christensen go in there and then shock some people?
This is an interesting fight. I mean, I think this is the main event of the prelims, right?
It is, yeah, FS2 prelims. Yeah, it's going to be on FS2.
Right.
I know Eddie would be like, fucking FS2.
FS2.
So yeah, yep, yep.
So Eddie's not watching these fights apparently, because
well, Leicester Hotel has FS2, so
right. Yeah, this is one of those fights where I think a lot of people aren't going to know either of these two guys, but it's a good introduction, in my opinion, to both of these guys. I think they're very evenly matched in a lot of ways. I think De Silva, like I was talking earlier, who did he beat? He beat Jonathan Wilson, right? That was Jonathan Wilson's only loss, where he
Mhm.
was undefeated up until he ran into De Silva. I think this is a perfect matchup to see where Christensen really is. If he's definitely one of those guys that's going to be moving forward in the division, or if he's going to be a Wilson, a Jonathan Wilson, where he's bottom of the prelims, kind of starting off the pay-per-views, or fight cards, and seeing how he kind of does down there. De Silva, I think this is his fight to lose. I mean, he's coming in with a little bit more of a hype, and his skills are pretty good. I think, like I said, I think both of these guys are evenly matched.
Yeah,
And I'm
both have
just
never been KO'd. I mean, Christensen, I mean, he goes in there to brawl. He's never been KO'd. I mean, he's got, yeah, definitely a lot
yeah,
of his wins are. I think he last fought. Or you know what's interesting about this guy too, as well, worth noting, Jesse. This guy actually has a fight booked in 5 more days in Denmark, along with this bout. So I don't know how that's possible. I mean, he could take some fucking serious damage here, but yeah, he's got another fight booked in like 6 days. So that's
in the
pretty
UFC
fucking
or
weird.
what?
No, not in the UFC. No,
Oh, that's weird. Is it
it is
what
booked.
type of fight is it?
Let's see here. It's booked in Superior Challenge 14. It's taking place in Denmark, and he's fighting a Brazilian guy named Ednaldo Oliveira. So yeah, it's booked
Hmm,
for yeah, October 8th. So yeah, that's pretty weird because yeah, what if he just
that is weird.
goes in here and gets blasted by Henrique de Silva, in which we both in agreement. I think that Silva, this is a fight for him to lose, but hey, it's a weird fight here. I think it's pretty close. I agree with you on that. I'll let you finish up there, Jesse.
Yeah, but I think De Silva is probably going to take this fight. Christensen. I mean, that's weird that the UFC would allow him to still have a fight booked.
Yeah.
We all kind of heard the legendary ironclad, contracts that they write up for their fighters.
Oh,
So
and
it's
to
kind of
make it
weird.
more interesting, it's a title defense too. He's actually the 205 champion of the Superior Challenge League
Hmm,
as well. So he's the champ. So he's got to defend his belt.
interesting. Yeah, De Silva, he needs to kind of get in there, make a point, and get out. And prove that he's not a guy that is a run of the mill fighter. He's just got to get in there and do the damn thing. Um, Real quick, I don't know if you're seeing hmm, I don't know if you're seeing that people are kind of talking about Josh the Man.
Oh yeah, yeah. I heard a little bit about like there's some serious issues about a possible drug overdose or something like that. So definitely not some good news. And yeah, I think he has a recent fight book that he recently just signed a couple days ago. So yeah, that's something I did note down and want to bring up on the show eventually.
So apparently a lot of people are reporting that he died. So
Um,
I'm kind of looking into it right now. But hearts go out to that guy. I mean, that guy's led kind of a hard life. I mean, I don't know if you know his whole story of his girlfriend dying in a car accident, I think while texting him or talking to him or something like that. And I was
uh,
there on his return fight when he fought Eddie Truck Gordon and kicked his head off. And that emotional outpour that he had in that fight. I mean, a guy that unfortunately maybe has succumbed to demons that we might not know about, but kind of hoping that all of this news isn't true, but got to mention that before we move on.
Yeah, no,
Josh
sad to hear
man.
that. I mean, yeah, if that's the case, and thoughts and prayers out to the Salmon family, and that's yeah, definitely not good to hear because yeah, earlier in the day the news broke about that, and we really didn't know what the full rundown was, but yeah, definitely a sad deal there.
Yeah, sorry to bring everybody down, damn, but
Yeah,
moving on
well,
to an exciting fight.
yeah, no, we're moving on to something here where yeah, I was super pissed off and bummed about the Luis Smolka Pettis fight. I mean that fight was leading into being we're having a possible contender come out of that fight. Finally, Luis Smolka would have been facing a good name in that division, as I think Luis Smolka is pretty much a rising stud in the 125 division, which we need these guys to move up. We need them to have big wins. Luis Smolka's 4-1 in his last five. His last time out, he fought Ben Nguyen, fought him up in Sioux Falls, I believe. And this time around, it's sort of a similar fight. He's fighting the 126 ranked guy, Brandon Moreno, out of Tijuana, Mexico, young cat, 22 years old. He's never been finished. I mean, this guy's been in weird, strange wrestling fights, and yeah, he's got a weird kind of career, a weird resume, let's put it that way. And he's unfortunately making his debut against a tough fucking Hawaiian named Luis Smoka, who is really pissed off that he's not getting Pettis. He talked a bunch of shit about it, which was pretty hilarious and unexpected from the guy. His 7th UFC bout. The young cat is 25 years old, the number 10 ranked flyweight. And like I said, Jesse, in my opinion, Smoka's the man. He's rising up. I remember seeing him, competing the Japanese card, the overseas cards when he first came on the scene. He's only had one setback. I think it was Luis Gadanot who had his number back in the day. So I think since then he's been untouchable. So bummed that it's not a big name like Pettis, because that would have really propelled him in a real good spot. And like I said, Jesse, we need all the guys we can in the 125 division. So Luis Smoka, definitely this fight is tailor-made for him to starch. And I think the starching happened real early and often. And it's sort of going to be similar to the Ben Nguyen fight, if not worse. What do you think, Jesse?
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think poor Brendan Moreno here pulling this this pull of the draw. I mean, luck of the draw is just, sometimes you gotta take whatever you can get to get into the organization. But damn, this is not a good introduction to the UFC fans. I mean, you never know. Kind of like your boy that fought what's his name? What's his name? Just recently.
Who fought Tony or Ferguson?
Yeah. Tony Ferguson.
Oh, the Lando fight, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly the type of performance that puts you on the map, right? You're kind of in there to get beat, but you still put up a good fight. You really put on a performance that people remember. And I think that's what Brandon Moreno needs to do in this fight to stay in the UFC. He needs to come in and really do a great performance. Can he do it against a guy as motivated, as determined as Luis Smoka? Oh no, man. Smoka has looked pretty good in his last couple fights, so I mean, it's going to be a tough, interesting fight. Especially if you think about it, Luis Smoka was praying for a guy that has very good skills in Pettis. Comes from a very good striking background. So I think the path for Moran to look great is to take Smoka down and try to stifle, that attack that he was probably going to implement. Other than that, I mean, like you said, it's Smoka's fight to lose.
Yeah, my correction earlier, I said Luis Gadanot. I'm thinking of John Lineker. I think Smoka's only loss is a close fight with Chris Carriasso, so I think a short notice fight as well. But other than that, he's put out Patty Holohan by submission, Neil Seary, and Richie Vasilik. And like I said, Ben Nguyen starching him over the summertime. So, yeah, I think it's about time. Like I said, I'm kind of bummed that he's not getting the name, because Luis Smoka definitely needs some names under his belt. And where he's at in the division at number 10, I think he's definitely going to keep rising. And I think this is just a tough break for Moreno. He could hope for the best and going in there against Luis. But I think the Last Samurai, heavy favorite, minus 150. He's a young stud. I think he gets the job done. More than likely, no later than 2 rounds. I think Brandon Moreno probably somewhat make it interesting early. But yeah, all hopes for him is to, like you said, the Lando effect, where he maybe, can make a name for himself, and Smoka's the guy to do it. So, but yeah, moving on here to another fight, which was another fight, and now we have another fight, and it is basically Josh Berkman versus Zach Otto, and previously it was Josh Berkman, versus Bobby Green, and it was going to be at 155, but this fight is now at 170. So. We got Josh Berkman, Jesse, the People's Warrior, man. He's been around forever, brother. He's fought in the World Series of Fighting. He's choked out John Fitch unconscious. He was a champion down there. He's had an interesting journey in the UFC, 15th UFC fight. He's fought the who's who, Jesse. We all know that. So I think you got more knowledge on Zach Otto than I do. I know he's a young cat, the Milwaukee cat. He's got a pretty good skill set. I think a lot of people are high on the cat. I think just against Berkman, man, Berkman's just too much experience, too much of a veteran guy, and just a general tough bastard. Whether it's taking him down or even competing him with on the feet. What do you think plays out in this matchup, Jesse?
Man, I think this is a perfect fight for yet another guy to get an opportunity and kind of showcase his skills. Basically, the insight knowledge that I have is he did an interview not too long ago and kind of put forth his kind of that he kind of, I think he was able to. He's been in what's his name, the matchmaker's ear for a while now, uh, trying to get a fight in the UFC. So he's been on the radar for a while. They just haven't found the perfect fit for him yet. And in my opinion, I think this is actually the perfect fight for him to come in and kind of showcase against a veteran. Josh Berkman, I mean, we've seen him through everything, you know. The deal with Berkman though is he just doesn't show up sometimes. You know, you just think that he's got a win coming up, and I don't know if it's like he gets unmotivated or you know he just overtrains and you know puts too much of a stress on himself, or what it is. But you just see his performances and you're like, what happened? Like that's not the Berkman that we remember, you know. And I think you know he fought really hard to get back into the UFC after going over at World Series of Fighting and kind of finding out that the grass isn't greener over there. So um, it's a tough fight because to me it's kind of like Josh Berkman. Hate to be kind of a hater here, but he kind of seems like a guy on the downward, a veteran that's still gonna use his name basically and give people the opportunity to kind of showcase what they have and see if they're up to UFC standards. Um, Zach on the other side here, I mean, he's running a 4-fight win streak. His last loss was against another UFC veteran, Jacob Volkman, a guy that
Hmm.
you know we all know Volkman. I think he was a chiropractor or something. You know, some sort of you know physical therapist or something. You know, he's a great fighter as well, skilled in everything. And ever since that fight, you know, Zach has kind of been on a tear. Again, like I said, he's kind of been ready and kind of waiting for his opportunity to jump in the UFC, and this is his shot. So I think most people are going to Berkman's side, and I think Zach is gonna surprise a lot of people. I'm actually picking Zach to win this fight. I just think that when you're prepared and ready to go, and you take a fight short notice, especially if you're already on the radar, that means that they know that you're ready for this opportunity. You know, he's not one of those guys that they're like, oh shoot, what town are we in? Hey, what fighting organization is nearby? You know, no, he wasn't one of those guys. You know, so
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see a good showing here, and I think it's gonna be an interesting fight. I'm going with Zach Otto here.
Yeah, yeah, good to hear that. I mean, I like to. There's a couple guys that are, you know, Mike Platinum Perry. There's a few guys that came on the scene with that similar kind of mindset. They're just waiting for that opportunity for Dana to come and say, or Sean Shelby and say, hey, we got a fight for you, whether it's on short notice or not. I love to hear that guys are itching to get in there and showcase their skills. I'm one, like you all know, all our listeners, I'm one that I just love to see the best fight the best, ranking wise. The hardcore, we all know who needs to fight who. We kind of have our argument on that compared to the super fight era. But yeah, it's always great to see the young talent rise up and demand a spot in or demand a big fight on any sort of notice, whether it's 2 weeks, 2 months. Always good to see. And I think yeah, I'd like to see Zach Otto do well here. If he does win the fight, it will be against a veteran tough bastard in Josh Berkman. I mean, since he came from the World Series of Fighting, I mean, he's fought, you know, fucking Hector Lombard, Dong Young Kim. His last win was KJ Noons. He lost a close bout to Paul Felder. So all those guys are known, you know, veteran guys, tough guys. So I think, man, the only way I see it kind of Berkman, like you said, losing this fight is he's a little, you know, somewhat just worn down, you know, whether it's camps, he's had tough battles. He's always seems to be the guy that you don't think he's going to be in the fight. I know what you mean by that, Jesse. I've picked him many times and it's gone wrong for me many times. So, but
Yeah,
yeah, I just know that he's got, you know, just an interesting journey. He's pretty worn fighter. I mean, there's numerous losses on his record by, you know, submission, TKO. So I don't know if Otto's capable of finishing Berkman, but I'd love to see a 3-round war here in which, you know, Zach Otto, you know, earns his keep in the UFC. And I'm picking Berkman, but I'd love to see that scenario play out where Zach Otto, you know, remains in the UFC, as I've heard plenty of good things about the cat. So um, with that said, I think the odds on that one are, you know, pretty much a somewhat to heavy or moderate favorite on the side of Berkman, minus 245 favorite, plus 195 underdog on the side of Otto the Barbarian. So number 71 ranking, Josh Berkman. That's in the 155 division. So he's a little ways out there and been around for about as many
and this
years.
is and this is at welterweight, right?
Yeah, that's at welterweight.
No, so
Yeah.
it's a different thing, you know. I think
Yeah.
his win against KJ Noons was at 155, where I mean, man, he just I don't know, man. I think he's a big enough guy to be a 155er, but he just can't do it as much. You know, he sucks too much weight down. But I think it almost seems like he has a lot of trouble with the welterweight guys where they're just way too big for him, you know? But
I think
yeah,
Otto's a pretty big cat too, as well. I think,
mhm.
yeah. I mean, because honestly, man, it's worth noting. I mean, he was the previous opponent, Bobby Green. I think him pulling out of this fight, I think he equally has like enough canceled fights as he does wins. It's like 11-11 or like 12-12. So I think he owns the title of like canceled bout king. You know what I mean? So it's and Josh Berkman's
Are you?
got canceled bouts up to you got a track record of them too. But yeah, it's unbelievable that a fighter has like 12 or 13 canceled fights and Bobby Green is that guy. So
I don't know.
um,
Does Jose Aldo have more? Because he might be the king.
he's getting there. Let's put it that way. He's right there. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, moving on, everybody. We move into a hella interesting fight here. I know a lot of hardcores are down to thinking this fight's kind of tough to call. I mean, it was an easy call for me, but I mean Jesse, man. I mean we got Alex the Cowboy Oliveira 4-1 in his last five. His only setback in those five fights is Donald Cerrone, and we got Will Brooks coming in. Former champion of Bellator. Trying to earn his keep, take that next step, moving up the ladder. He's ranked number 8 in the world at lightweight. Alex Oliveira, number 68. So Jesse? I mean, who do you favor in this fight? And what do you think plays out? I mean, do you think, because it's all. I mean, it's sort of a trap fight for Will Brooks, I guess you could say. It's a full camp for him. I know he preferred to have a full camp, and last time around he just said, "Hey, give me Ross Pearson. I mean, he's a tough bastard. I just want to go in there and." He sort of just like hit cruise control in that fight. Do you think we see a more exciting Will Brooks performance here, or does Cowboy, fucking brawl him out for 3 rounds? Man, what do you think's happening, man?
I think we need to see a more exciting Will Brooks. I think we need to see Will Brooks really reach his potential. And I kind of got to eat my words a little bit because when he came into the UFC, I thought he was going to eat his words because he said that he's definitely a UFC caliber fighter. He's definitely a world champion caliber fighter. And I kind of ate my words, but I kind of didn't either, man. Because I mean, that performance wasn't as good as he thought it was going to be. And even though he might come in and say that he still won the fight, blah blah blah. I mean, it wasn't the performance that he needed. He definitely needed to prove more in that fight. And like you said, I mean, Ross Pearson, he's a tough customer. I mean, that guy, he's kind of like what Jeremy Stevens is. He's that type of guy that they kind of throw a veteran at and see if the veteran still got it. And I think that's kind of what that matchup was like. And in my opinion, I definitely think Alex Oliveira, he's a good fighter, but I don't think he's that caliber of a fighter. I think he's definitely a step down, and Will Brooks
Mm-hmm.
should have no problem winning this fight. This should not be a decision. If it goes to decision, I think the UFC is going to reconsider, their decision of bringing Will Brooks in, because he
Yeah.
can't come in here and decision fights. He has to finish these fights. Nobody really finishes Ross Pearson, so nobody expected him to finish that fight. But people have finished Alex Oliveira. Most recently, I think it was Cowboy, right? Cowboy was the last guy to really put it on him.
Yeah.
So I mean, Will Brooks got a lot to prove. He's got a lot to prove, and I'm picking him. I'm picking Will Brooks, but I mean, he's got to come in and put a stamp on it. He's definitely got to put a stamp on it, or I don't know what they're gonna do with him because basically a guy that's a lower level guy than the guy you beat in your first fight, it doesn't look good. You can't be
Yeah.
decisioning these guys. You gotta win,
No,
decisively
I
and make
agree.
it
Yeah.
exciting.
100%, man. You couldn't have called it better. I mean, I think Alex Oliveira is somewhat of a downgrade in competition. I mean, he is a tough cat. I mean, 4-1 with only Donald Cerrone setting him back. So yeah, but I definitely think Ross Pearson is a tougher guy. I've seen Ross Pearson fight in person. I've seen his whole damn career, and unfortunately, I'm like indirectly tied somewhat to Will Brooks because I was in attendance the night of his only loss here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I actually got to see Will Brooks lose a fight. So and which he doesn't do that often. So I think on this night against this type of opponent, Cowboy, like I said, somewhat of a trap fight. But I think Will Brooks is, he's earning some extra cash. I mean, Cowboy missed weight by like fucking 4 pounds or something like that.
Five,
So,
right? 5.5 or
but
something like that.
yeah, and then Will went in there and showed him pretty, some disrespect at the whatever the play weigh-ins or whatever. So I think Will's game for this one. I think he probably does his thing, man. I think I don't know, they can criticize him or not, call him an evolved version of Benson Henderson or so. I mean, yeah, Will Brooks doesn't lose fights. I mean, like I said, I remember when he did lose a fight, and he lost to Sada Wad here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I think it was back in 2013, 2012, I believe. So, but not on this night, not against this opponent. I'm with you, Jesse. I think he really needs to shine here. Otherwise, yeah, the UFC is going to be like, okay, well, who do we actually put this guy up against next? I mean, if he's going to keep decisioning everybody, no matter what kind of game he's going to talk, it's not going to get him in these big fights that he wants to be in. And Will Brooks, being the former champion from Bellator, he's got a lot to prove. And I think a lot of guys are willing to take that fight all day, every day in this division, in which, hey, he's ranked number 8 in the world. So who's pretty much ahead of him, other than straight killers. So.
And honestly, I think he has to not lose any fight until he gets to that title shot, because I I think back in the back of his head, there's still that I'm a champ. I didn't lose that title. And he basically came to the UFC to prove that he could beat the guy that was the reigning champ at 155, and he was the best. And currently that guy holds the title, in Eddie Alvarez. Who knows for how long, but he wants to get that fight, and that's what he's here to do. So he's got to, like I said, he's got to put stamps on these fights, and he's got to really prove that he's the best. Lots of, I agree with you. He's got lots of upside, but we got to see it. It's just honestly comes down to that we got to see it.
And then just the way the 55 division stacked up. I mean, we all know Conor and Eddie got a date set. It's a super fight. In the meantime, there's nothing but killers from number 8 to number 4. I mean, just anywhere in there. I mean, he's got to get past some of these guys. And good point that you made, though, about somewhat of a step down in competition, in which he did have a tough time with the tough bastard in Ross Pearson. But I think Alex Oliveira will somewhat make it interesting. I think he'll, he's a bigger guy. I mean, he's a pretty big cat at 155. He's a big frame guy. He's a grinder. It's his 7th UFC bout. Besides a Cerrone loss, he lost to Gil Burns years ago. So Alex Oliveira is not a guy to really get put out that easily. But I think this fight, possible fight of the night, man. I know a lot of hardcores that are up on this fight that are looking forward to see Will do good. But on the other side, it's like, hey, Cowboys is no slouch either. But for our former champion Brooks, plenty to prove. This is his night to do it. So in a co-main event slot, especially. So odds on that fight, of course, Will Brooks, pretty heavy favorite, minus 300. Cowboy plus 230 as an underdog. So that's it.
Bet that fight. Everybody out there that's kind of looking for the underdog special right there, that's definitely one where you could just see something crazy and he gets caught. Let's hope that doesn't happen, because like I said, I think we're all kind of rooting for Will Brooks to kind of be that guy. He's a young cat, exciting talks. We kind of want that. So, I mean, we definitely don't want him to lose. But, I mean, if you're looking for one of those upsets to happen, that's one of the ones right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree to that. It's a tough fight to call. But for the hardcores, people who are familiar with Will, he should handle business. But Cowboy could really make it interesting. And, shit, man, I see it playing out one of two ways. And Will Brooks via, 3-round, just wrestle fest, or Cowboy on the other side catches it with some shots, and maybe Will Brooks loses a razor-thin split decision too as well. So with that said, Jesse, moving on to the main event of UFC Portland here. We got a banger of a main event, sorry. And it's the last of the trend of fighters missing weight. I mean, John Lineker, this has been some sort of a problem for this cat, man. I mean, if he's going to be put in line with the title, I mean, title's on the line. This guy's coming in missing weight. I mean, he's not even going to get an opportunity to step on the scale for the title. He keeps missing weight the way he does. I mean, 26 years old. I mean, he's got a 5-5 streak. This guy's really pretty much coming into his own as a true killer. He's facing a veteran, tough bastard in Johnny Dodson, coming out of Jackson Week MMA right here in Albuquerque. I know a lot of people have been ducking John. I mean, anytime I've seen John at the gym, I always talk to him since his last fight. Ever since that time, anytime I seen him at the gym, I'm like, "What's up, John? You got a fight book? You got a fight book?" Every time I talk to him, or if anything I've heard is there's just so many guys that just don't want to fight the guy. They just do not, and especially at 135. I mean, he's a different animal. We all know he's got a starching of T.J. Dillashaw years ago, and he pretty much holds ground at 135. If he ends up putting Lineker out here, he could set himself up in for some big fights. And either of these guys, I think, match up well with who's ahead of him, whether it's Dominic Cruz, Caraway, whoever it is. I mean, I'd probably favor both these guys in any of those fights. But what do you think, Jesse? This fight here, I mean, sets up Lineker possibly in the title contention, or John Dodson. I mean, I know Dodson said the only fight he's really worried about is Dominic Cruz, and he knows Dominic Cruz will fight him, but he's got to earn that shot. You know what I'm saying? So at this point in his career, against John Lineker, the younger opponent here, what do you think is playing out in this main event, Jesse? Man, what really comes out at you as something where a path to victory for John Dodson here, man?
Man, this is a hard one to pick. I mean, Dodson doesn't get knocked out. I mean, he's got 7 losses on his record. Pretty much they're all by decision, man. Oh, yeah. This guy does not get finished. I mean, he's so tough. He's so durable, but I think his best attribute that he just doesn't get to showcase as much anymore is his speed and power. That combination that's really strange in this lower weight division, The problem is his last 2 losses are to a guy that has the better speed and power. He made him look slow. He just chopped him up and kind of put him through the shredder and spit him back out and goes, "Hey, what do you want to do? You want some more, or what are you going to do?" And then Dodson basically was like, "Yeah, I'm going to move up." And I think it's the best decision for Dodson. You saw in his last fight against Manny Gambarian, which take that with a grain of salt because Gambarian, he's not a world beater either. Yeah. But, I mean, he's still a very, very good veteran, and he just ran through him like nothing. I think this is the best test for both of these guys. The thing is that Lineker, I mean, he's a weird fighter. I mean, he's got very, very good wins. Look, if you look at the wins that he has, I think, Ian McCall, Cisco Ronaldo, Michael McDonald, he's got such good wins. He just sucks at weight cutting. His only loss in the UFC, honestly, one of his losses in the UFC, honestly, is Ali Bogotinov, who we know, now that he was on something.
Yeah.
And that was a unanimous decision loss. So Ali Bogotinov was able to push that extra distance to beat him. So you take that out of the picture, let's say, just in case that Bogotinov was cheating at that point as well. I mean, his only loss is to Luis Gannat, a guy that
debut, right? His debut in the UFC.
Yeah, I believe it was his debut right out the gates. So I mean, he's been in there. He's experienced. He knows how to throw. He's got to get that weight under control. The only thing I don't like is the way he plots forward, just looking to knock you out. I mean, that's what he likes to do. He just likes to put that heavy hand on you and put you to sleep. Can he do it to John Dodson? Who knows, man? You got to hit John Dodson pretty hard to put him down. Mighty Mouse was able to do it, but that's because Mighty Mouse is fast enough to be able to counter when Dodson was trying to come in and, pepper him. I just don't see John Lineker being able to move as fast as Mighty Mouse was able to do. I think Dodson's going to stay on the outside, pepper him shots here and there, kick him down, break him apart basically, and I think he's gonna this fight. I don't think it's gonna be a decision. I think it might be a late finish, maybe in the 3rd, 4th round, maybe even a 5th round finish. But I think we're definitely going to see a finish in this fight. On the other side, I think Lineker could definitely knock Dodson out because he's got the power. I mean, he puts people to sleep. He sleeps people pretty good.
What are the chances Dodson and Lineker go full Francisco Rivera style? I mean, that's probably the most unlikely thing, but I think that's probably the chance that Lineker maybe wins the fight. But I doubt Dodson, gets into a firefight like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I think Dodson is smart enough to not fall into that trap because that's what John Lineker likes to do. He likes to kind of make you fight his fight, and when you fight his fight, you're on the inside trying to trade punches with them, and you're like, oh, I ate one. Okay, I can just hit him twice and then move. and then before you know it, you're in a fist fight, and then you're going down. So I
If he
think
cracks him, I think if Lineker were to crack him and hurt him early, he could potentially control the fight. That's maybe his best option. But him catching John, and I mean, just his athleticism and the magician, man. I mean, he's going to really pretty much be the fucking magician in this fight to actually pull a victory out, which won't be easy. Let's put it at that.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening, man. I think yeah, the man,
What's good, baby?
What's up, man?
What's going on, man?
Hanging out at Reno. You can see it, sort of see it behind me. Sort of. It's the parking lot at the Atlantis Resort. Chilling, hanging out.
Is that like a sponsorship shout out?
It is not, but Atlantis, if you guys want to sponsor, I spent plenty of my fucking money on you motherfuckers today, so hook us up. What the fuck? Anyway, real quick, I was looking up on Twitter because I was listening to. I went out to dinner right now, carb loading, all that bullshit. And I saw a bunch of tweets, and I was actually listening to the show while you guys were talking. And did you guys get confirmation, or did anyone get legit confirmation about Josh Salmon?
No, it doesn't look like it. I think it seems like people are getting pissed off about a lot of people kind of putting it to the forefront because I don't know if you saw somebody tweeted at you saying, you stop probably, putting it out there. But I mean, it's like we're curious, we care. It's not that we're trying to put out his business out there, but it's like a lot of people really are invested in these fighters. And, when you hear somebody is kind of in that situation, you kind of want to know, kind of what's going on because you just never know, man. If someone.
I mean, look, to me, it's like, look, and I've always been fun of this dude. You guys know this shit. What he did on the Ultimate Fighter with the hey, watch this and the double punch shit. Really, really annoyed the hell out of me. But I mean, if we're talking about a human being. I mean, like a guy that had his own drug issues in the past. If you know anything about him, I've read about him before, right? And he used to have drug issues and all sort of stuff. And he's had a hard road. His girlfriend died in 2013. He has not had the easiest or even the simplest or even the most normal of roads in life. So for him to go out, if he is gone, for him to go out like this, man, it's a tragedy of the highest level, really. It's
that's what I was
sad,
saying before,
it's
man.
tragic.
That's what I was saying before. I mean, I was there when he did his triumphant return to the UFC and had that epic win with that head kick finish. And, it's just sad to see that, when somebody has demons that, they may have overcome and then they come creeping back into your life. We don't know for sure, but I mean, it's like, if that's the case, man, that's really sad.
Yeah, man. And the only people that are going to be affected, people are going to be affected, whatever, in the MMA community and everything, and people I know him, his friends and everything, but his family, man, you got to feel for them. Because they've been on the same ride that he's been on, and for them to have to, possibly end it this way, I mean, it's awful. I don't wish it on anybody. So shout out, and hearts and thoughts go out to his family and his friends and him, and in hopes that this news that of his passing is not true. But if it is, man, it's just it's a tragedy, man. We lost a lot of people in 2016, and weirdly enough, a lot of people in the MMA community in 2016. So. Man, it's a sad night, sad day for sure.
Well, we are, to move on here, I guess, Eddie, since you're joining the pack now. Hey, man, we're right at the main event, brother. John Dodson, always confident, a superior athlete, I believe, in this fight here. Going to make things difficult for John Lineker, man. I think Dodson's going to be, he's going to be John Dodson tomorrow night. I think he's not going to be there to be hit by Lineker. What do you think plays out, my man?
I think John Lineker already lost a fight to a Twinkie. I mean, how are you going to show up half a pound overweight when you're the main event in a fight that could legitimately keep pushing you towards a title shot of some sort? I mean, and this isn't the first time or the second time. Like LeBron said, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 1, not 2, not 3, 5 times he's missed weight. I mean, if you want an example of an unprofessional fighter, it's this dude. You know what I mean?
Pretty much cost him the 125 title shot too. In a couple.
That's gone. Forget it. That was gone then. Then anything on this weight class is gone too. Props to Dodson for still fighting him. You know what I mean? And but let's just speaking and just as far as like the fight goes itself, Dodson is quick, man. I mean, Lineker can throw the hands of stone all he wants to, but he's gonna have to land like the perfect shot to put out a guy like John Dodson. And even if he does hit him, Dodson has taken damage before. This dude can fucking take a punch. So I think Dodson should be able to get it, not easily, but he should be able to get this fight, I don't think it's going to be a finish other than Lineker gassing out or getting caught by a nasty punch. I think it's going to be a decision win for Dodson. But this weight thing, man, was it 3 fighters? Hakan Diaz, Alex Oliveira's weight miss was pathetic and embarrassing for anybody that calls himself a professional fighter, especially in that weight class. You know what I mean? Because it's like, dude, how do you miss weight by 5.5 pounds? That means you legitimately did not give a fuck.
That's Mayhem Miller style.
I mean, dude, that you literally they signed that contract. Their only job is to show up on weight. You know what I'm saying? Like if you train every single day, that takes care of itself. You literally your only job, the only thing on that contract that you have to absolutely fucking do is show up on weight and on fight night, and that's it. The rest of it is just on you. Right? You know what I mean? The rest of it, it's like you can fight, you can get in there and suck, and get your ass knocked down, and get kicked out of the promotion. But the weight is disrespectful, unprofessional, and stupid. So, and Lineker did.
Will let him know that at the weigh-ins. Will did let him know that, hey, fuck you on that 5-pound overage. He just walked up to the scale or didn't even step on the scale. He just walked into him and just said and pointed to the guy. So, yeah, when it's that much off, I mean, it's totally ridiculous. I'm with you, Eddie.
Right. So, I mean, but as far as the fight goes, man, Lineker's he's not a one-shot guy, but he's like he'll throw like 2 or 3 punch combinations. But when he gets tired, though, because he does gas out. He becomes like a one-hitter quitter type of guy, which is where he gets his nickname from, by the way. That he has hit those one-hitter quitters. But again,
he has a decent chin too. But
right,
he's got one of the hardest hitters.
Dodson's a hard hitter, and Dodson will hit you out of nowhere. I mean, this dude will find an angle to knock you out with. So I like Dodson in this fight, man. I think the speed and the accuracy, and it doesn't hurt to have Greg Jackson in your corner. To help you with the game plan. Although they are kind of a slide, but still, I think Dodson should be able to get this fight, in a decision, pretty, unanimous, really, in my opinion.
And he'll earn a couple extra, or he's already got a fight bonus already on the side.
Oh yeah, was it 20%?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's already a couple guys on this card that are earning bonuses. Andre Feely, Will Brooks is earning some cash, and John Dodson being the main event. So.
Yeah, shout out to Andre Feely, man. That's my boy.
Because, I mean, in the way this card is lined up, I mean, Eddie, we talked about it before we went on air. We talked about it per fight. I mean, the trend of the night, is pretty much like, some guys looking to earn their keep in the UFC on the FS2 prelims. Early in the night, we got Cody East, Curtis Blades. I mean, Eddie, what do you think is a real fight to look forward to in which we got possibly a contender? Possibly, I was mentioning the Smolka Pettis fight falling out was total fucking shit, because that would possibly a contender would have arisen out of that. But what other fight interests you, Eddie, besides maybe the Will Brooks fight is pretty obvious, but what else is you looking forward to watching, man?
The Will Brooks fight. The Will Brooks fight, because I like Will Brooks. I'm a fan of Will Brooks. A lot of people don't like him. He gets a lot of shit on Twitter for people, by the way, which is stupid. I always think you should talk to a fighter like they're standing right next to you. You know what I mean? Because if they were and you were talking all that shit, please believe you get smacked down. Especially from a guy like a Will Brooks or like a Smolka. But I'm looking forward to the Smolka Pettis fight. I thought, like you said, that was a possible contender, up and coming contender, a guy that you could throw in, throw a couple more fights, and he'd be a legit contender. I like that fight. Pettis dropped out, and Smolka let him know he was a bitch about it. But I like Will Brooks, man. That fight, whether or not Alex Oliveira was overweight, which by the way he was, 5.5 pounds over. Wow, excuse me, I just ate a lot of lasagna. He also cannot weigh more than 175 pounds, I believe, on fight night, which is what I've read. So Oliveira has to weigh 175 pounds, no more than that, or he's disqualified. So that's gonna help Will Brooks on that. How much, I don't know, but I like Will Brooks in that fight, and I think he wins this fight, and I think it's in his best interest to finish it. You know what I mean? I mean, the circumstances. Look at it this way: the storyline is going to help him here. And I hate to talk in like wrestling terms, but the storyline is there, right? His opponent missed weight by a lot. He showed up on weight. He's pissed off about it. He calls on pressure and all the other shit. And then at this point, if he finishes the fight, especially if it's impressively, you can start talking about Will Brooks going for a title shot. You know what I mean? So I like Will Brooks. I think that's the fight I'm looking for the most.
And on that note, I mean, I guess we'll start with Jesse here. I mean, there's always, the last couple cards. I mean, I know we've had some big fights recently, but there's just been weird shit that's played out on these cards. We're talking about certain guys, post-fight, and then this card specifically, Jesse, who are we talking about, come Sunday morning, come Monday, come next Wednesday on Advocates? Is there anybody you can point out that is likely going to be that's going to be that guy? You know what I mean?
Honestly, man, I think the two guys that you got to look at, well, both of these guys and their fights respectively, but I think Curtis Blades and obviously Zach Otto, just because of his placement on this card and who he's fighting against, a seasoned veteran, and see what he can do in that fight. But I think the low key best fight that we have on this entire card, besides the main event and the co-main, I think it's got to be Hakran Diaz and Andre Fili. I think that fight's gonna really propel one of those two guys into a higher echelon of the division. And I think the problem is that it's unfortunate that Eddie's not even going to get to see that fight, seeing as how it's on FS2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, FS2. Yeah, Hotels. Well, you know what? I don't even know if it's Hotels got it, man. I gotta check. But either way, I'm still gonna be running that race by the time that shit starts, probably. So,
Eddie,
catching that replay.
What's an unexpected character that we'll likely be talking about? And hopefully it's not about somebody's hole in their sock or shoe or some ref getting kicked in the ass.
Shit.
Hopefully it's an actual fighter. So what do you think, Eddie? Who's the unlikely guy here?
Well, Jesse took my pick. Andre Fili, man. Andre Fili coming off that insane knockout by Yair, who, by the way, is one of my favorite fighters. I mean, Yair Rodriguez is as fun as they come, and as smart as they come, and effective. I mean, the kid's young, and wait till he hits it.
Mm-hmm.
Why you being racist about it, man? All right. Yeah, look at the Mexican wanting to build a wall. Fuck you. Anyway, no, it's fine. But Andre Fili, man, he's coming up. It's in his best interest to win this fight and to put up a really good performance, right? Because before he got beat up by Yair Rodriguez and knocked the fuck out, we were talking about Andre is one of the better fighters in that division. So Andre's my guy. I think Andre's gonna be the guy he's gonna do great. He's gonna finish that fight. And he's going to get on the mic and be like, hey, I'm on my way, motherfuckers. What's up?
Yeah, because they'll definitely be, because the fallout of this should be interesting. I mean, because if Lineker ends up going in there and stops John Dodson, we could be talking about Lineker being, the next guy at 135, because that's where I want to get to next. We know we got Cody Garbrandt, Dominic Cruz trying to brew up that fight in that division. But what would you guys, Brian Caraway's in the mix somewhat, but what would you guys, who would you favor in a matchup of either John Dodson or John Lineker versus Cody Garbrandt? Go with Jesse first, man.
Either one of those two guys. I think John Lineker kind of X'd himself out of any kind of potential number one contender fight, after he ate like the 2 Krispy Kreme donuts on his way to the scale this morning. So, it's like, I just don't think that the UFC is going to put him in that position anymore. I think they've kind of learned their lesson at this point. They're like, hey, you're not going to do the one job you have to do. We're not going to give you the shot. All he had to do was make weight and he'd have a shot at Demetrius Johnson once he beat Ian McCall. He didn't make weight, still won the fight, but didn't make weight. And he was still cocky about it, rubbing his belly and all that.
Yeah, what the fuck?
So I think John Dodson's the one that has to win this fight, and in that fight, I think that'd be a really, really good fight. Yet again, we'd have to see how John Lineker does with that heavy hands against Dodson, and I think we'd probably see almost a mirror image of that fight against Cody Garbrandt. He's a bit faster, but he's still a heavy puncher. So if I think John Lineker can't land a punch, I don't think Garbrandt can do much better. I think he might be better in the sense that he might be able to strategize better, but I don't think that big heavy shot's ever going to come and put Dodson out. So I think it'd be an interesting fight. I think I'd rather see that fight.
Oh. I think Hands of Stone likes his pizza too much, man. I think that dude would make the weight if they give him that fight. Which, by the way, I'll tell you right now, next time Dana White sees John Lineker, he's going to be like, hey, featherweight, what's up? How you doing? How's it going? Or, hey, John Lineker, here's your pink slip. Get the fuck out of my face. That's what he's going to do, I think. So, and again, look, John Lineker needs to win this fight in a big way and apologize profusely for missing weight. But I don't see it happening. But against Cody Garbrandt, Lineker's too slow. He just is. And by the way, if it's John Dodson against Cody Garbrandt, I don't know that I wouldn't pick Garbrandt in that one. You know what I mean? We've seen Dodson go into the 4th and 5th rounds and get slow and tired. So it's my way. And meanwhile, Cody will finish fights with one hit. Both guys are hard hitters. So I think if we do see that kind of fight, it's going to be Dodson Garbrandt. and I would actually favor Garbrandt in that fight. But if for some weird, wacky, MMA, WWE fucking reason, we get Lineker against fucking Garbrandt, I think Cody's gonna piece him up like a motherfucker, for real. Oh, by the way, Brian Caraway's a non-starter for me. Not at all. I don't care. I don't.
Yeah.
You know what? How about this? Feed Caraway to like Caraway Lineker. Yeah. Do that at 145 pounds or 135 pounds. I don't give a fuck. Make that fight. All right. I don't mind watching that guy get knocked out because like jiu-jitsu all you want to. Lineker will land a couple hands on you before we take him down, and then those are gonna hurt like a bitch.
Yeah, some heavy-handed cats at that top end of that 135 division. And Dom Cruz, I think, will welcome all those guys in any type of fight, and I'd absolutely favor him in any of those matchups. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with Lineker in a win or Dodson. Though I think it'll put these guys. I mean, it fucking sucks for Lineker because he can't make weight, but hey, John Dodson's going to be pretty much back, in that conversation, right back in the mix. So I'm happy that they got him a fight. Lineker fucked up, fucking missed weight, and made himself look stupid.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, man. I'll tell you what, Lineker should only fight in Brazil because apparently you can get away with missing weight over there, right? Cyborg.
Yeah, and since because that pretty much closes up the pre-fight show. But since Eddie joined us late, I guess we could touch on a couple topics here going forward. Let's go with you guys heard about the Belfast card stacking up. We know we got Connor's crew lined up on that card, a couple guys, and then we recently added Hiroto Ishihara and Artem Lobov lined up in Belfast. What do you think of that one, Eddie?
Fuck Artem Lobov. Fuck him. Look, and I'm not saying that because he pieced up Chris Avila and my represent crew, but Artem Lobov, he's a brawler and he's fun to watch and everything. And as long how about this? I don't mind Artem Lobov as long as you're not like no one's talking about him getting anywhere near a contender spot. Like not even a contender. I don't ever want to hear anyone say Artem Lobov contender because he's a rock'em sock'em robot. That's all he does. That's what he's good for. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's it sucks that they set him up for fucking getting fucked up because I love my bitch. He's gonna tear through. Yeah.
He's gonna get fucked up or choked out. Okay. He's gonna get pieced up, get taken down, get choked out. He's going to sleep. You know what I mean? And I hope I love my bitches have some crazy shit on the mic afterwards.
Jesse, what do you think of that one, man? I mean, Ishihara, he pretty much he's a stud in that division too. I thought he'd get a pretty good name, but he gets Artem Lobov in Belfast with Gunnar Nelson as the main event.
That's a good name. What do you think? That's a good name in the sense that it's going to bring him notoriety. Because when Connor's people fight, everybody, all of Ireland tunes in, basically. So it's a good thing for Ichihara to get that notoriety, get that name under your belt. Somebody that we all know he's going to win. But, the hardcore Irish fans are going to be like, no, Artem's going to knock him out. Well, that's not going to happen. But
no.
Well, you know what? You know what's pretty sure? I can already see that. I'm sorry. Jesse, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was just going to say I got to bounce because I got little monsters that I got to put to bed. But,
okay.
The last little thing, that whole thing with the weight thing in Brazil, definitely suspicious. But they didn't find Roy Nelson for doing that stuff. They're like, oh, whatever the UFC wants to do. They probably called Dana and were like, what do you want to do? And Dana's like, whatever. And they're like, oh, so this is our official statement. We're not going to do anything, guys. So, I mean, and I think I was listening to that. The commission down there is not even recognized by anybody. So they can suspend Roy Nelson for the next 10 years.
It won't matter.
And no other commission is going to honor that. They're just going to be like, who? What? The Brazilian MMA commission? Yeah, we don't know who that is, so we're not going to honor that. So, just take all those fights with a grain of salt when the UFC says that the commission is handling that stuff because it's not really the commission. It's the UFC doing their own thing and willing and dealing. So,
right. And for people putting that on Cyborg, which blows my mind. And people on Twitter going, "Oh, I can't believe Cyborg got away with that." I'm like, she didn't get away with that. They let her get away with that. It's not her fault. You know what I mean? That they let her fight half a pound over, whatever the fuck it was. It's fully on their fake ass commission. It's gotten away. That's made it so Brazilians could get away with some crazy shit. You know what I mean? We've seen some of the craziest shit happen in Brazil before USADA and after. Okay, so I'm totally with Jesse on this one. No one recognizes them as anything real or official, and until Roy Nelson's probably laughing. I'm like, oh, you want me to come back? Go fuck yourself. I'm not doing that shit.
Yeah, and on that
All right,
note
boys.
of, are you out,
I gotta
Jesse?
give you the
All
yeah,
right,
I gotta
man.
go, man.
Later, dude.
Appreciate you coming
Have
on.
a good night.
Thanks, Jesse, man. We'll check you next time. All right, and then what was I gonna say, Eddie? I wanted to bring up. Well, I can
And then
already
there was
see.
two.
No, you know what? I can already see the Instagram post of Ishihara with a bunch of Irish chicks in like downtown Belfast or whatever. So
I would be, dude. And you know what? Someone take that one and Photoshop. This is gonna be disrespectful as fuck because she's a really nice person, from what I've heard. But Photoshop Conor McGregor's girlfriend's face on one of those chicks just to piss him off for the fuck of it. Because I think it'd be funny. And someone will do it. I guarantee someone's gonna do it. Someone's gonna do it for sure. One of these boys gonna do it.
Or he could be like shotgun in McGregor's Bentley or something too, with doing something
there you
crazy.
Go.
There you go.
There you go. Break Artemo's heart on Instagram. He'll be like, "What the fuck, Connor?" No, but yeah, shit.
To stay in that, we're talking Brazil a little bit about the commission. To stick around there, I know I talked with Andrew Reed briefly about it. His boy Gus, we all know the fight got canceled. So, in my opinion, Eddie, I think he had no business fighting him down there. It was a weird booking. I don't know what happened with Gus. I don't know if it's an injury or what the circumstances are. But, man, I want Gus against a name, man. I mean, how long do you think he sits and who do you think he fights next now that this being, a weird Brazilian matchup that just suddenly got canceled?
I don't know, man. I don't know who you give him next. I mean, and the thing is, look, again, the reason why he's out of that card is never given yet, right? But I already didn't really care too much about that fight, to be honest with you. Because it is against, Leonard, who... Hola. Hi. Yeah, kids out here. Anyway, but yeah, so I didn't really care too much about this fight to begin with because it is against Leonard, who's in the back of his career, and would have really given Gus anything, right? I mean, if Gus beats him, so what?
It could be a terrible loss because it's down in Brazil, and it could
exactly. It was lose for Gus. I'm with you on that. It would have been lose for Gus if he lost, and if he wins, it's just a W in his record. And now that Ryan Bader's in there, I care less. Especially with Ryan Bader coming off a massive win, though. He's coming off a massive win. You know what I mean? So if anything, now you might be ruining a contender, another one. If he somehow loses to McGregor.
That's a Ryan Bader booking right there, 100% for sure.
Yeah. So Ryan Bader jumped on this as soon as he heard Gus got hurt. He's like, Dana, put me in. Why you want this fight? Because I can whoop this fucker easy. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, because Lil Nog is not the Lil Nog we used to know. Not anymore anyway. But yeah, dude, I don't know. Anything that happens in Brazil has always been like iffy for me. Like had when I was happy that Stipe knocked out Verdum the way he did, because had it gone decision, and let's say everyone thought Stipe won and Verdum got the decision win in Brazil, he'd be like, oh great, of course it's a Brazil thing.
Yeah,
but,
true.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. Gus is in this weird thing. Have you watched those? And it's gonna be weird. You ever watched one of the Stranger Things show on Netflix?
I have, yeah, I've seen them.
Okay, if anyone hasn't seen them, I highly recommend it. It's better than 99% of the shit on TV anyway. But there's this thing called the Upside Down. They call this Upside Down. It's another dimension that people get dragged to by this monster. Gus is in the Upside Down right now. He's in a weird place. I mean, he's been in a weird spot since the Jones fight. I mean, everyone wants to see this rematch, and so they're like, oh, we'll give the rematch later. We're gonna give him this guy now. So then Gus this fight, and he wins it. And he comes back. Okay, I'm ready for Jones now. Oh, we'll give you somebody else for now. We'll do this with Jones now. He gets knocked out by Rumble. Ah, shit. All right. We'll give you somebody else now. Whatever happened. I think Jones dropped out, and Gus gets in against DC. DC beats him. Okay, yeah, but I want Jones, not DC. And so it's this thing where people are always like, big time Gus fans are like, oh, they're protecting Jones. No, the fuck they're not. They don't take Gus seriously enough. So I think Gus. They need to give Gus a big fight, dude. They need to give him a big fight, and see if we can get that Jones fight maybe. I mean, that's what I would do, right? I mean, think about it. If Jones doesn't get suspended for 2 years, which is laughable because I highly doubt that happens. I think he gets 6 months or nothing. Okay, but if they don't suspend Jones for 2 years, his return fight, if I'm Dana White, is Gustafsson, because who doesn't want to see that rematch? Whether or not it's true that Jones trained or not for that fight the first time, you want to see that rematch still, because that was an epic fucking fight.
Yeah, and it kind of seems like we're leaning, or the UFC's leaning towards the light heavyweight title may not be defended by the end of the year.
Looks like it.
I mean, with John Jones, the saga continues. October 10th, we'll know, what they want to do, because basically you got, Gus in the mix now, possible. But yeah, you got to give Rumble a shot, man. I mean, I think Gustafson's never been the same since Rumble KO'd him, in his home country. So that was a devastating fucking loss. So he's never been the same since, let alone the John Jones fight. But he'll always be remembered for the John Jones fight. So I think he deserves a big matchup, and I think he'll get it. But Andrew Reed and I know we're on the same page now. We want Gus in a big fight. That's all we want. So, and
shit, if we get lucky, we'll have Mr. English himself on our UFC 204 pre-fight show. For anyone that's been wondering, we always talk about Andrew Reed and all that, and all the time. We've had it on before. We had issues with his audio and his video and all that, but it looks like he's got it figured out. All right, so we're looking forward to getting him. I think it's next Friday. Is it next Friday?
Yeah, he said for sure he'll be there. So we'll be welcoming Andrew Reed to the show and break down a hell of a title fight in his backyard. So I'm looking forward to that one. Yep. And to close the show off, Eddie, let's touch on this topic. It's a pretty interesting topic. It kind of ties right here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There is rumors of a Kat Zingano, Holly Holm fight being agreed upon, as well as Amanda Nunes and Ronda Rousey. So if those two fights
I've heard both rumors, and I've heard that Nunes has already signed her bout agreement with Ronda. So we're very close to. They're probably pretty close to making that an official fight. I like Holm against Zingano. I like that fight a lot. When Zingano, I think she put up something on Instagram, and it was immediately like that rumor came out. I'm like, yes, make that fight, fucking yes. Yeah, make that fight as a co-main to or at least on that same card as Ronda Nunes. That would be like, what, UFC 207, something like that. Definitely make that fight, because I would love to see those two girls throw down. I mean, we're talking about two professional fighters that are in shape. They're both very strong, and they both got hands, man. They've both been in some spectacular fights, and so it'd be I'm probably more excited I'd be more excited for Holm Zingano than I would be for Ronda Nunes. Although Ronda's gonna get all the Bud Light fans fucking coming in and like, oh shit, I'm back on Ronda's
They will be back
on a tits.
Of course. Yep.
Yeah. So it's kind of Look, I don't mind either fight. But I like Holmes and Zingano a lot more than I like the other one, for sure.
Yeah, Holmes Zingano makes perfect sense in the fact that Holly's she's gonna want to fight the best. I mean, Zingano's right there. It sets up a pretty interesting matchup, with the champ now, matched up with Ronda. So I know Amanda Nunes is fresh. Ronda's been out. Everybody's been the waiting moments of when Rousey's actually going to step back in there. It's going to be huge, I believe, and pretty much leaves two gals out the mix, Valentina Shevchenko, who just beat Holly Holm, and Juliana Pena. So, but as that division gets more interesting, I mean, it's pretty much a lot of people have been, the rumors about the Rousey return, I guess, are going to come true, and I guess we're going to probably see her probably December 30th, I think is the card they're looking to book. So.
Tell you what, it's about the money, man, and Shevchenko and Pena aren't bringing any of that shit in, especially not Pena. Look, you say what you want about Pena. It's like, oh, Pena's a good fighter. Yeah, but she's fucking awful. Not awful person. I don't know her like that. But from her, you judge someone from her actions, right? Her actions are shitty. Okay? Yeah. Don't be a shithead. Or don't be a shitty person, Pena, and you can get some shit going. Shevchenko she's new. She's a new girl, and she's gonna get treated like a new girl, whether or not, unless she was like a McGregor and they give you a Seaver for a title shot next, you're still the new girl. So, get in line, chicks. It's just how the game works right now.
Oh yeah, no, that's going to be interesting to see what they do, if that's the two fights that they want. I mean, Valentina Shevchenko is sort of going to have to sit on the sidelines, but she'll be in the mix, though. She has a big win over Holly, and she can't be denied, especially if she goes in there and has to fight Pena, and likely she would beat Pena. I'd pick her in that fight, absolutely. So, and don't sleep on her sister, too, as well. Her sister needs to be put in the UFC here pretty soon in the next couple fights. Shevchenko's sister.
Ooh. I didn't know she had a sister. That's cool. I'll look it up.
Yeah, definitely. So I think she'll be somewhat to look at here in the near future, possibly in the UFC or Bellator. So, but
for sure,
that should do it, everybody. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Eddie, joining us from out there in Nevada, man. Appreciate you coming on. Good luck with the race and everything tomorrow. Let me know what plays out with that. And thanks to Jesse for coming on. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Give us a like, subscribe, and we'll catch y'all on the next one. Appreciate it.
See ya. Follow me on Snapchat at Eli52. Peace.